So what's going on, everyone? So I was trying to think of another decent discussion video I can do while I'm still waiting on some packages to come in. And I was going through some of my frequently asked questions, and I found one that I'm surprised I haven't done a full-on video for yet. I think I've mentioned it a few times in some of the videos, but I've never done a full-on video discussing one particular thing that a lot of people have noticed. If you've been with me since day one, then you know that I used to write my books under my actual name, Luke Wood. However, there's a lot of people that didn't start following me until I released The Paradox Complex. And as you notice, this one says Poetry by C.L. Williams. And one of the questions I've been asked before is, why did I change my name with my books and take a pen name, given that I was using my real name? And it's going to sound a little weird, but hopefully, to me, it made sense. Hopefully, once I explain it, it'll make sense to everyone else. So for those that don't know, and I'll do a video on that at some point in time, there is a little bit of a gap between Meta and Meta's predecessor, Approaching Humanity. And during that time, I'd reconnected with a couple of people on social media that I fell out of touch with, or just when I got a new phone number, somehow they didn't get the current number that I was using, or just various things happen that result in you reconnecting with someone. And one of the people that I'm close to, we reconnected, and he was asking me like, hey, what you been up to lately, all that sort of thing. And I mentioned how I'd started writing, how I put out a couple of books, how I was getting ready to release poetry book number 7, which was Meta. And he mentioned him and his then girlfriend, now wife, both like to read. They both have Kindles, their own separate Kindles, because they're always reading different things. And he'd say, give me your Goodreads page, give me your Amazon author page, and me and my girlfriend will go on ahead and pick up a couple of your books. So I send him the links for both my Goodreads page and my Amazon author page. So about a week or two passed, and he said, hey, just want to give you the heads up. My girlfriend bought your book of love poems. She loves it. And I just bought your computer book, and it's really helpful. How did you go from writing love poems to writing a computer book? I don't know who all follows me, but I do not have a computer book of any kind on my bibliography. I have a short story about a cell phone that takes over people's minds, but that's about it. So I told him, like, hey, I don't know what you bought, but that computer book's not for me. I, at the time, had 6 poetry books and my short story collection, Veering Straight Ahead. He said, well, let me send you a screenshot. So he sends me a screenshot, and it's, I forget what the book was called, but it was something about Windows 7, and it was written by Luke Wood. For the record, I know for a fact I am not the only Luke Wood on this planet. I was not expecting to find out that I am not the only Luke Wood that writes on this planet. So I told him, like, hey, it's not me, but if it's working for you, just go on ahead. Don't send the book back or anything. You know, you're getting use out of it, but let me send you a list of the books that I've written and the books that I'm in. He was like, all right, cool. So I sent him that, and he said, well, just so you know, there's 2 computer books, and there's a novel on your Goodreads page. I'm puzzled, because at this time, I'd been discussing the idea of writing a novel, but at the time I hadn't yet written the novel. So I'm confused. So I go on my Goodreads page because, again, there was a bit of a gap between Approaching Humanity and Meta. And at this time, I wasn't really making a lot of money from my online sales. Most of my sales as an author were from people buying books from me directly. So I'm looking at my Goodreads page, and lo and behold, there's 3 computer books, a textbook, and a novel. And one of them wasn't even written by Luke Wood. One of them was written by J. Luke Wood. I'm like, how? It's not even the full same name. So I get on my Goodreads account and I send something to the people at Goodreads. I'm like, hey, just so y'all know, these books are on my author page with you guys, and it's not me. And I gave them the list of the books that were under my page that weren't written by me. And they're like, all right, we'll fix it. Sorry for the inconvenience, so on and so forth. And a few days later, those books were removed. So I looked into it a little bit more, and someone eventually did claim the computer books, but they only claimed the computer books. It's like, all right, so there's at least 3 different people named Luke Wood that write books. There's me, there's this computer guy, and I don't know what's going on with the textbook and the novel. So I'm like, all right, let me friend the computer guy on Goodreads and see if I can get some social media pages from him. So I'm going to be honest with everyone, I don't use Goodreads like I used to. I barely use it now. So if I remember correctly, back at that time, there was a way you could message people on Goodreads. So I remember messaging the Luke Wood that writes computer books. I was like, hey, my friend likes your book. He bought it because he accidentally thought it was something I wrote. Would you be interested in doing some sort of cross-promotional thing so that people that are looking for you don't accidentally buy my books, and people that are looking for me don't accidentally buy your books? And in the process, if you know anyone that writes poetry, if you want to share my stuff, go for it. And I already know someone that's bought one of your computer books. I didn't hear back from the person. And the person didn't have any like social media links or anything like that attached to their Goodreads page. Okay. So I go on to the person that wrote the novel. And I go to the link where it will send me to Amazon, and I click on the person's name, and they've never even set up an Amazon author page. It just showed that book, my stuff, and then a couple other things that had some iteration of the name Luke and Wood in the author's name. It's like, all right, this is going to be challenging. So finally, I'm like, all right, the textbook person, I know no one's going to be trying to get someone writing poetry mixed up with a textbook. Not even the same thing. I think the dude's book was in science of some kind. I don't remember which branch of science, so apologies for anyone that bought a textbook from J. Luke Wood. Well, this person has an email address. So I'm like, yes, I can finally contact someone and maybe we can get something going on. That way, if people are a fan of him, they'll know not to check out my stuff, or if they are interested, we can each lead one another to the other person's page. So I send the guy an email, like, hey, recently your textbook ended up on my Goodreads author page. I know we don't exactly have the same name, but I don't know how often this confusion has happened on your end. On my end, not only was your book under my Goodreads page, but there's another person with my name, and someone bought their computer book thinking they were buying something from me. Would you be interested in doing a cross-promotional thing or something so that we can avoid confusion from people that follow either of us? And if someone wants to buy your book, I'm more than willing to share links. And if someone you know wants to buy my books, I'll send you links. And I didn't hear back from this person right away. But so far, I had one person I messaged that never responded, one person I had no way of finding a way to respond to, and one person who had an email that I managed to find. And after about 2 weeks, I did get a response. Now, I want to say the person was nice, but it was essentially, I don't think people are going to mix us up. I can't really say too much on your end, but I'm about to retire. That is my only book that's still being printed at this moment. All of my other books have been updated by my students, so my name is slowly being taken off. I'm sorry this is happening to you, but for now, this is the only thing I'm going to have until they find some reason to update the book and my name's being removed. Long story short, he said no. And of the people that I was trying to find a way to contact, he was the one that had the most reason to say no. One, we didn't have the same name, and two, this man was about to retire. So here I am now with books that aren't mine showing up. It's confusing people because my following was building at this time. No, I didn't have a huge following. I think my Facebook page may have had 500 likes at the time. I had just set up Instagram. Twitter was building up, but not necessarily because I'm a writer, but because I was sharing. That was the one profile at the time that was both personal and business. So I had a lot of people follow me because I'm a nerd, or I was watching TV, or I mentioned a movie that I like. So the people that were following me on Twitter, only a fraction of them were following me because of writing. I was like, all right, if I can't contact these people to do some promotional thing, Meta was already done. Meta was getting ready to be released. And I already had the cover for 3 Crowns. So I was like, all right, I can't do anything with Meta. I can't do anything with 3 Crowns. I'm already working on the follow-up to Meta. How about after Meta and 3 Crowns comes out, I take a pen name? I didn't really want to, given that Luke Wood is my name. Here's the issue where it came in with the pen name. I wanted to keep Luke in the pen name some way, somehow, because that's what I go by. Well, that didn't help. I came up with every single idea I had in mind, and all of them were taken. I think I looked up 10 different names where I still had the name Luke. I even went, for those that don't know, my full name is Christopher Luke Wood. So I thought, all right, I know there's musicians out there that use their first and middle name as their stage name. Or they do some sort of combination where it's not, where the names might be out of order. So I looked up Christopher Luke and Luke Christopher. Ha! Both of those were also taken. I was like, all right, what is something I can do? And I ended up getting an email. And the email, I had to respond with initials followed by my last name. So I had an email that said, Dear C.L. Wood. I was like, hey, wait a minute. I'll do this. I'll be C.L. Wood. It's still my name. It will separate me from the multiple Luke Wood authors that are out there. Maybe I can do something with this. So I type in CL Wood, see what's up, and I couldn't use that one either. Not only was it someone who had a lot of books, it was someone who had a lot of books with a lot of reviews on quite a few of those books. So now I'm at the point of bashing my head in the wall because at this point, Meta's now out. I've done the cover reveal for 3 Crowns. And I knew there wasn't going to be a huge gap between the releases of 3 Crowns and what ended up becoming the Paradox Complex. So I was like, all right, I've got to come up with something. So someone suggested my mom's maiden name. Someone suggested my grandma's maiden name on both my mom's side and my dad's side. Someone else suggested I make Wood my first name. Again, when your name is short and your last name is also short, there's endless, infinite combinations of your name with something else. I looked up just about everything I could find that I thought would be decent to use. And I couldn't find a thing. Well, around the time the Paradox Complex was being worked on, I had a death in my family. So, as horrible as this is going to sound, during this funeral, where the full name is on the program, I thought, why not use this person's middle name as my last name for my pen name? And I shared it with someone. I was like, hey, what if I do this? Because this was someone that was showing support at a time when a lot of people close to me weren't necessarily showing support. So I shared with a couple people. I'm like, yeah, why not? So I look it up. And while this person doesn't have any books under their name, this person has written stuff in anthologies. So I was like, all right, that didn't work, but I'm onto something here. Instead of using someone's maiden name, why not use the middle name of someone else in my family? And that's where the Williams name comes in. One of the biggest supporters on my mom's side of the family is my grandfather. And my grandfather's middle name is William. So I was like, you know what? When I was ticked off at various family members not showing support, he was the first person to give advice that I'm not going to share on here. Although I'm sure he's not the first person to ever say what was said to me. So if someone has heard the advice that he's given to me, you've probably heard it from someone close to you. Or someone you know has been told this advice. So it's like, you know what? It's one of my biggest supporters. One of the people I'm still close with. So he's not going to like it. He'll like the idea on why I'm doing it. But I'm going to look up the name C.L. Williams. Here's the good news, bad news part. Good news is, well, the bad news is it was sort of taken. There was another C.L. Williams that had written some books. But at this time, we're talking 2017 at this point. Because the Paradox Complex came out in January 2018. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, all right. This C.L. Williams has not put out anything since 2012. It has been 5 years and this person hasn't put out a book. And there was another person, but that person, one, didn't live in the country, and two, was writing in a subgenre I don't normally write in. So like, all right. there's a way for me to separate myself from this C.L. Williams. This other person hasn't written anything in going on 5 years. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm using the name C.L. Williams. I'm going to get my DBA on it. For those that are wondering, that's doing business as. So I can solidify that I can use the name C.L. Williams. So for those that are wondering, the full name, Christopher Luke Wood, the C comes from my first name, the L comes from my middle name / what I regularly go by. So if you see me in public and you call me Chris or Christopher, I'm probably not going to respond. Call me Luke. And Williams being taken from my grandfather's middle name of William. And my initials being CLW. This way my initials are still CLW. So I gave everyone the heads up. When the print release of 3 Crowns came out, there was a little thing at the end letting everyone know that 3 Crowns would be the final book written by Luke Wood, and that all books I would release going forward, starting with poetry book number 8, which at the time was still untitled, would be written by C.L. Williams. Now, to anyone that follows me on Facebook, then you already know that that's what it is, because for the longest time, I was Luke Wood with the word author in parentheses. Now it's C.L. Williams, FKA, Luke Wood, author. I still have the FKA Luke Wood author for a couple of reasons. One, I have a lot of books that are written under my real name, Luke Wood. Not only are those books written under my real name, but Meta and 3 Crowns are my 2 best-selling books. This one's currently my 3rd best-selling book, but my top 2 best-selling books are still under my real name. And it's like, I feel that I need to keep that up there for people that try to find me on social media. That way, it's easier to find me if the only book they own is something from Notebook of the Mind to 3 Crowns. And of course, everything from the Paradox Complex to now is C.L. Williams. One question I have gotten before is, I was already using the name Writer434. In fact, I've been using the name Writer434 online ever since the release of Notebook of the Mind. I did get asked about why did I not use the name Writer434 as my pen name. There's other people that use weird names and stuff like that as their pen name. Why not? And truth be told, I thought about it, because that's my name on everything. My Instagram's Writer434. My Twitter's Writer_434, because I forgot the password to my original Twitter, which is Writer434, the URL for Facebook. Chances are, if you go on any email and use Writer434, chances are you're going to be contacting me. But I wanted to have an actual name, not an online handle, because I always thought that there would come a time when the online handle thing would become cliche or taboo, and people wouldn't be wanting to do that anymore. And I was kind of right. In fact, when I was first asked about this, I was like, well, some of these people that you see using these online handles are starting to change their Twitter handles or their YouTube channels or whatever it is to their real name. So I was kind of already seeing the trend before it became the norm. So like, I don't want to be Writer434 like that. So that's why I chose the name C.L. Williams. And in January 2018, the Paradox Complex was released. My first release as C.L. Williams. Since taking up this name, you have seen more stuff come from me. There's my first bestseller with Lucifer's Lost Love, my first #1 with Cindy's Choice, multiple anthology appearances, because prior to the Paradox Complex, I had only been in a handful of books, 3 of which I put together myself. So now C.L. Williams is the more easy to go to name, and my second channel where I have my poems and short stories is there as C.L. Williams. So for anyone that has wondered about the pen name, that is the origin story on how I went from being Luke Wood author to C.L. Williams. And for the record, if you meet me in person, because I do a fair number of conventions and events every year, you don't need to call me C.L. Williams. You don't need to call me Writer434. You can call me Luke. That's what I go by. It's my name, my actual name. So you don't